Recording now. Okay, start.
Hello and welcome. Today I, Mervyn Blagg, have the honour of interviewing the rising young artist Nat Nollid, writer of plays, poetry, comedy and even documentaries. He discusses how his life has influenced his work by driving him on to be the creator. Oh, bollocks.
Start again, don't we?
No.
Just carry on.
Shall I start right from the beginning?
Well, yeah. But...
Hello and welcome. Today I, Mervyn Blagg, have the honour of interviewing the rising young artist Nat Nollid, writer of plays, poetry, comedy and even documentaries. He discusses how his life has influenced his work, drawing from his personal experiences, sometimes tragic and harrowing, but driving him on to be the creative force he is today. He has summarised his work as a personal search for truth, justice and reality. Nat Nollid, why don't you just fuck off? This, your most famous piece, a largely autobiographical work, deals with the early life, trials and tribulations of an immigrant, from birth to leaving home, and is reminiscent in style to Ken Loach's Kes, borrowing from its documentary format, gritty realism and use of non-professional actors, or even the caméra vérité of François Truffaut's Les 400 coups. Can you talk us through the parallels of this work and your life?
Well, thank you, Mervyn. Like the central character, I was born in India.
I must say, you speak very good English for an Indian. One might easily mistake you for a real Englishman.
Yeah, thank you, Mervyn Blagg. I was saying I was born in the Punjab, not the Punjab, it's the Punjab, in a small village. My only really real memories of the time were of sitting by the railway lines eating gravel in a farm.
Well, I suppose there wasn't a lot of food available.
Well, no, Mervyn, this was just a childhood habit, really.
But tragedy struck early for you, as does your central character, with the death of the mother, remarriage of the father, and the proverbial wicked stepmother.
Yes, thank you, Mervyn. This was the beginning of a very difficult time for me. My most traumatic time in many ways, in fact, in lots of ways. Cause of the death of my mother, no strong maternal bonds, resentment to the father.
Then comes the trauma of leaving India and starting anew in England. Why not Scotland?
Well, you see, they wear skirts, you know, kilts,
And you would look a bit silly with those drawers you have to wear as a Sikh.
well, yeah, I suppose so.
And why didn't you like to go to Wales or Ireland?
Well, the Welsh, they keep saying they have these sheep that they have to do things with, you know. And the Irish have all these peat bogs everywhere, and, you know, your feet get covered in them.
Instead, you come to Huddersfield, of all places.
Well, someone's got to live there. About 6 years old, the family migrated to Huddersfield at the request of Her Majesty's government to provide labour in the mills and the factories.
But tell me, even somewhere as dreary as Huddersfield must have seemed like paradise after living in dirty, smelly India. After all, it had everything that you lot want. Free healthcare, social security, free education, and houses with running water inside. Well, just houses.
Yes, thank you, Mervyn. It wasn't quite like that. I bet you haven't been to some of these council estates around.
But no, I haven't. But you start school, something you would yearn for, rather than working in a mine or something in India.
Yes, thank you, Mervyn. I started school in Huddersfield, and it was very confusing at first because of the Yorkshire accent and everything, and I could hardly speak any English at all.
Yes, but with the accents, they hardly speak English there anyway, so it didn't matter that much.
Yes, quite, Mervyn. We lived there for a couple of years, and the family moved to Dagenham in order for Father to work at Ford's.
This must have been quite traumatic, as you were then moving into a largely white and potentially hostile population, unlike Huddersfield, where there were thousands of you lot.
Yes, thank you, Mervyn. Life was more difficult in Dagenham, of course, as you say, because of the racial mix. I was one of the very few non-white people around. There was only a few Asians about, no blacks at the time. It's a lot different now, of course. And that's when I first encountered the term, why don't you just fuck off? You know, why don't you just fuck off back home? Things like that all the time. All the time I was getting that. On the street, in school, and that is the title of my first book. Racism was much more blatant in those days, and it wasn't so long after the famous rivers of blood in the late 60s and the rise of the National Front in the 70s.
In spite of these difficulties, you did very well academically, and it looked as if you were going to obtain good qualifications. Quite an achievement for anybody in Dagenham, let alone a foreigner.
Yes, thank you, Mervyn. I was on course to do very well at school. I was intelligent, but I just started to rebel. My father was very strict. I was a bit of a loner. I had very few friends. I had no social life. All he wanted us to do was study, study, study. So I just started to begin to lapse in my schoolwork.
Just how strict was your father, and what form did these lapses take?
Well, he was very strict. He administered beatings. I started missing school. I was dozing in my room instead of doing homework, and even shoplifting. You know, mainly wank materials and stuff, as you do when you're a teenager. And things were made worse by the relationship with my stepmother, who really, she treated me more like, you know, I find it difficult to discuss, but nothing like a son.
You must have felt rather like a sort of Cinderella.
I didn't know you had a sense of humour, Mervyn. That's quite good coming from you.
Really.
Yes, quite Mervyn.
This disappointment was made worse by the fact that your elder brother did very well.
Yes, he set a good standard, which I was supposed to follow, even surpass. And for a while it did look like I was going to. If I ever got less than 90% in my exams or tests, I was very disappointed. But in the last sort of couple of years at school, you know, things just fell apart. Emotionally, I was just, you know, weak and everything, you know.
So you began a career as a malingerer and petty criminal. Did this help you fit in with the other Dagenham school kids around you?
Well, actually, there was he's a half-caste black kid. He was picking on me, along with the white kids all the time. But there were other kids that were good. Not every kid was bad, and some of the kids got up to all sorts, as they do now. But in a way, it was always going to be different from them. You know, it was always going to be different.
Was that because you had to wear one of those silly top knot things?
Well, yes, quite, Mervyn. I suppose, yeah. Sometimes you just have to do certain things, you know, for the cause of good.
But you were given a second chance to gain some qualifications, which you actually succeeded in doing, in spite of resistance from others.
Yes, I including my own headmaster, who, you know, things were very difficult. Some of the teachers were brilliant, some teachers just didn't like you because of who you were. But that's what it was.